if someone wanted to start tomorrow or today, what's step one?
Start searching the broker websites, Campground Marketplace or Cruxy. There are so many of them.
Whitney, thank you for coming on the Investor Podcast. I appreciate you. I'm going to get right into it. Everyone thinks RVs are passive income. What's been your experience?
RV parks could not be more non-passive. They are very active, lots of hard work, and yes, it's all worth it, but it is anything but passive.
And what were kind of your biggest misconceptions going into this endeavor and this project?
That's a great question. I would say that my business partner and I we really went in eyes wide open. We knew it wasn't going to be passive. That being said, we did believe that we were going to get up and running with a management team more quickly than we have. So in our situation with this park that we purchased the end of January, everyone went with the sale. So we were starting from scratch. The 5 owners were the ones running the park on a day-to-day basis. So we were starting from scratch, hiring a park manager, a maintenance lead, housekeeping, all of that. What we didn't anticipate was that we would be on our 4th park manager within 90 days. And so with all of that turnover has meant not only lots of interviewing and lots of hiring, but then lots of onboarding and training in person, being at the park. So it all makes sense. We just hadn't fully planned for it. That has been our biggest surprise.
When did you come to the realization or the moment, the aha moment, you said to yourself, RV parks is the direction I want to go into my investment avatar and profile? And how long have you had this park?
Yes, so this is our first park, and we closed on it like 93 days ago or so. January 30th, January 31st is when we closed. So it's still pretty new. The way that we came into RV parks was really through having conversations and networking. And so I met my business partner, Melissa, through Owners Club. And it was really at the retreat last year in Monterey, California, where we really connected. And I shared my vision for rescuing 100,000 dogs. Like, that is my purpose and mission in life. And she was really starting to explore RV parks. And so it was through all of this conversation, like, how could we do something together? She is so passionate about dogs. And then the more we were chatting was like, okay, so RV parks can also provide the land that we need to build infrastructure for all of these rescues. And they can also cash flow quite nicely. So how could we marry these two ideas together, RV parks and the mission for rescuing all of these dogs? And that's really how it was born. So this whole vision with my business partner really started last June, 2025 in Monterey, California. And so from June is when we really started like looking and trying to find a park. This was really before like the craze took over with RV parks. Yes, they were building momentum. I think what worked in our favor was that we were just slightly ahead of the curve. And so the end of August, then we went on a road trip and saw something like 8 parks in 3 days across 5 different states. Really started building rapport with sellers. And that trip was also very educational, because actually a park that we had under contract at that time, when we went and saw it in person, we're like, oh no, this is not the vibe we're looking for. Nice park, but it wasn't for us. With the park that we own now, we toured it August 30th. It took us a few months to get it under contract just because of all the back and forth negotiations. So got it under contract in November and then closed in January.
That's an awesome experience. I know she loves dogs. Once you start following her, you'll take notice how attached she is to her pets. So she's absolutely attached at the hip with her dogs. If you follow, like I said, I see her all the time. And Whitney, before RV parks, right? Before all this journey, you had a life. And what were you doing prior?
So before I jumped into real estate, I was actually a fashion buyer. And my life was corporate America, working in retail, which the younger version of Whitney thought that was, an incredible dream and would be so fulfilling. And it did used to be fulfilling until it wasn't, until I got more in touch with what my purpose is. And I could go down a whole story of where that came from. Life has a funny way of giving you experience and perspective to completely change course. And that was what really did it for me. And so, yeah, dogs became the mission once I jumped into real estate.
Yeah, so that was kind of the posh you, right?
The posh me, right. Because now I am like anything but posh. Now I am buying nightcrawler worm bait for the camp store. I'm no longer buying designer like I used to, for Bloomingdale's. Now I buy Dr. Pepper, Coors Light, Milky Ways, and nightcrawler worm bait.
That's incredible. The transformation in less than a year, how life takes you, right? And then suddenly you have a new life. But you kind of called for it. You kind of wanted it, and this is how it presented itself, right? And during the process of getting into this deal, did it feel risky? Were is there were any apprehensions in kind of getting into this space, right? It's all new to you, right? I'm sure you were anticipating, what am I getting in myself into?
Yes, I think that is natural for anything that is new, right? We always are there's always a first time that we're doing something. And that first time can always feel a little unnerving until we have completely worked through it. I think in the process of the negotiation, it was taking so long and I was feeling like we weren't making progress. There were multiple times where I was like, oh, we're out. It's not working. And that's where, my partner was like, nope, we're staying in this. And so I needed that kick in the pants a few times. That being said, I think because of my business background, running extremely large fashion businesses, and working in corporate America and presenting financials to, CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, I feel very comfortable running a day-to-day business and the financials behind it. Of course, there's the unknown of like, well, what do I actually know about an RV park, right? I've been in an RV a few times on vacation as a child, but that was kind of it. So of course there were, a ton of unknowns. But it also comes down to mindset. And I've done a ton of work in that space to feel very confident and know that any problem that comes my way, can be worked through. No problem is catastrophic. And so I think that has also been instrumental in this entire process of learning a new business that's out of state, learning a new industry. Yeah. Do I know what I'm doing? Most days I have no idea what I'm doing, but I know that I am moving forward and figuring things out every day.
That's incredible. And during these obstacles of getting this park to the close, where there's any time in there that you were like, wow, we might not get this park on the contract. And what were your friends or people around you thinking? What were you doing?
Yeah, there were a ton of different moments that I did kind of question myself. But it always came back to mindset because I was always visioning the end result. Like there's no chance that we don't get the funding because we are. Like all I was seeing was the money, right? That was coming in to fund the park. And so anytime something would kind of like sneak in, nope, it was just a reset of my mindset. But of course, you know, as I mentioned with the negotiations, there were times where I thought, you know, maybe this just isn't our park, and that's okay. You know, if things don't work out, it means there's something else that's better or, you know, meant for us a little bit more. But sticking with it obviously proved to be successful, and we couldn't be more excited.
Yeah, kind of on the follow-up. Like I said, what were the people around you who are not in the space or your friends that what do they think? What is she thinking? Like how, you know, because some of our friends and our family project, right, their fears upon us, and kind of how you dealt with that, right? Can is that because that ties into mindset as well?
It absolutely does. I think that, you know, I've been in real estate now for going on my 5th year since I left retail. And I really focused on surrounding myself with people who are supportive. They may not like want to do what I'm doing or understand it, but they are at least supportive. And my family has learned to never challenge me because the more I get challenged, the more I'll show you that I can do it. And so all of the people within, you know, our real estate community, within Owners Club, within Sub 2, everyone, you know, was cheering us on and being so supportive. You know, and all of my friends, like in my personal life, also were. I actually didn't have anybody that was like, what the heck are you thinking? Why would you do this? And that just comes from, you know, who I allow in my bubble, because we are who we surround ourselves by. And that has been something that I've had a huge focus on in the last 2 years.
Now let's get into the park. Like, what hit you immediately after closing, and what didn't you expect initially?
Yeah. Wow. Where to start? So the day before closing, we had learned that we had to put down a $20,000 deposit with the electric company. And we had not planned for that. We had hired someone to help us get all of our utilities in order, get all of the transfers done, because that alone it's so much work. And we knew that we wanted our efforts and time focused elsewhere. So anyways, we'd hire somebody. She had done the investigation with the electric company up front, and it was $1,000 deposit. Okay, we are prepared with our $1,000 deposit. That's what the current owners had down, no problem. Well, as an owner, I then had to show up in person to sign some things for the transfer, because we are still in an era where things have to be done in person and wet signed. A lot of this has blown my mind. Some of it's because we're operating in such a small town, and I'm happy to get into some of those details. I think I could blow your mind. But anyway, I'm at the electric company, and it's a $20,000 deposit because it is 2 times your highest monthly bill, and that highest monthly bill had been $10,000. So that was kind of a bit of a oh shoot moment. Where is this coming from? What are we going to do? So that was the day before closing. Then we closed, and we had our brand new park manager and maintenance lead lined up, ready to go. They were going to start with us on day 1. And quickly upon meeting them, we recognized that was just not going to work. That was not going to be a proper match, unfortunately. So here we are on day 1 now, and we've already let them go. So that was a surprise. So now we're day 1, we own it, and now back to hiring and looking for somebody. So that was a surprise. Also on closing day, I had been aggressively approached by 3 men who have lived at the park for quite some time. Very aggressive. I was out walking my 3 dogs, and I was alone. alone with the dogs, and they came up on multiple golf carts, surrounded me, and I think wanted to make me feel very intimidated. And they said, we heard that the only pets allowed at the park are dogs and cats. Is that true? And I said, yes, that is true. That is the new rule. And this one gentleman said, well, I have a monkey. I have an emotional support monkey. And I mean, there had been so much going on. We'd been at the park for 10 days at that point. I was just trying to take like 20 minutes to go walk my dogs and like maybe have a thought to myself. And well, I was not afforded those 20 minutes. And so I was pretty caught off guard. And again, I wasn't scared, but like I was not expecting 3 men to surround me on their golf carts, right? So had to address that, which led to an eviction notice going out to the family with the emotional support monkey. And then what else was a surprise? I mean, you don't really plan to find a dead body, but we were dealing with that in the first week. There was a dead body. Yeah. So somebody had passed in their camper. We had also, that first week of ownership, had extreme cold, which was felt like pretty much throughout, I don't know the entire country, but the entire Southeast, like below freezing temperatures, you know, where pipes were freezing and all of this. And so this individual in her camper had not been going to work for multiple days just because the weather was so cold, you know, ice on the roads, didn't feel safe driving, yada, yada, yada. While her employer hadn't heard from her for 7 to 10 days at that point and just thought she was living by the same rules as like, the weather isn't good, I'm not coming into work. But they finally had a wellness check done. And that is when she was discovered. So yeah, the authorities took care of that, but it was like yet another surprise, right? And here, this person had been a guest of the park for a few years, and the authorities were asking us for the next of kin information, and we didn't have that. So that was also a learning moment. Okay, we need to be collecting emergency contact information from every month-to-month guest go forward. So everything has been an incredible learning, has helped drive our processes, our protocol, the paperwork, you know, all of that. But it has not been a dull moment for the last 93 days at all.
Again, it's been an incredible journey. And again, you as an operator, now you realize that this is not a passive investment, right? And a lot of people, they get this completely wrong about this asset sector. And you've imparted a ton of reasons why this type of investment may not be for everyone, right?
I absolutely agree. And I think people who do believe like, oh, I'm just going to buy the park and it will run itself. You do have to do some soul searching and see what you are up for, because this is really not for the faint of heart. Now, I should clarify, we are running a resort with a ton of amenities. So we are different than a long-term park, so to say, who doesn't have, you know, all of the moving parts on a daily basis. However, I was there for 6 weeks upon close without one single day off. So, you know, I don't know that everybody is, number one, able to carve that kind of time out of their life. And then, you know, I was just back for 3 weeks. I did this time take like half a day for myself for some mental sanity. But all of that being said, like, you really need to be able to evaluate where your life is right now and what commitments and things do you have that would allow you to be at the park, you know, and train people, make sure things are running smoothly. I mean, even now that I am back home, I am still working like 10-hour days on the park. I mean, the park manager calls, you know, 5 or 6 times a day, you know, with various different questions. She's also learning. I was on the phone with the reservation system right before this, like working through things, cleaning things up. And so even from home, this is a full-time job. Like I'm working 60 hours a week from home supporting the park right now.
Again, it's an incredible task. And our mentor, Pace Morby, shout out to Pace. Like I told you earlier, he kind of makes it look easy, right? And again, he has the systems, he has the teams, and we have to take that into consideration, right? And he obviously is a leader and the driver for us to invest in these avatars, because one part can change your life, right? It's just now living kind of through others who have done this prior, kind of like you, like I explained that the reason we're connected is that when she bought her park, I remember her and her partner, Melissa, shout out to her. And I made it intentionally to follow them and follow the journey from where they got the park and they closed it. And then the real began to happen, and you get monkeys, and then you get a exorbitant amount of, the bill is out of control. And then you get a death that kind of puts life in perspective and teaches you lessons to say, hey, what do I do? Oh my God, right? So it changed my perspective just in 3 months that I told my team, guys, I believe we have to do a pivot. And it was a lot to do with me just following your journey, literally following your footprint in what you were experiencing, to tell myself, oh, this is not what it is, right? This is not what I think it is, and we're gonna have to find a different way to recalculate our journey, right? And then you said something important that I want people to catch. You said your park is a resort park, and then there's a workforce park. So a resort park is kind of different than a workforce park. And I want for the listener who is not part of our community, he might not know, to give them that insight that they will understand what that means.
Yes. So we are a transient resort, which means, people are really coming to us for short-term stays, for vacation or, for a weekend, whatever that looks like. And so with that, we have the pool, we have the hot tub, we have a lake with catch and release fishing. We're offering outdoor movie nights. We're doing candy bar bingo. There are all sorts of events and activities going on. We have hiking trails. So that's like one element, which is really getting into the hospitality. Yes. And not only do we have 84 RV sites, we also have 6 cabins, 9 tent sites, and an 18-person lodge. And so all of that requires all of this housekeeping, right? Multiple bathhouses, multiple laundry rooms, all of those have to be serviced and cleaned on a daily basis. It's coordinating with the housekeepers. We got to check out of this cabin today and a check into that cabin. Like, are these cabins ready? When I was just there, we were doing inventory of what do the sheets look like? Do we have enough sheets, and are they in good condition? Are they kind of looking dingy, a little bit gray? Do they have holes? Are they thread-barren? We don't have enough, so now we're buying sheets, right? Now we're evaluating the towels, because nobody wants to come to a hotel and feel like they're sleeping on something a little dirty, right?
Correct.
Which then led to, okay, what toiletries are we leaving for them? Shampoo, conditioner, body wash, lotion, all of that. Well, we didn't have that. So I became on a hunt for what is campground appropriate, what looks cute, what is affordable. So all of this ties into the resort versus more of a long-term park. You aren't necessarily offering all of these same amenities, kind of operating just a bit more as a landlord, where people come, move in, and stay. You don't necessarily have all of these events and the housekeeping that you're coordinating and, the amenities.
Yeah. A little caveat, because now that you're in the hospitality space that you mentioned is very important. And I think now Posh Whitney can come out a little bit and show her wares, right? And this is then connected to reviews, right? Because people are going to tie that to reviews. So at hospitality space, it definitely connects at the back end to reviews about your park and your reputation. So that stuff matters, right?
It absolutely does. How they are greeted at the front desk at check-in, how was their stay? How can we better accommodate them? Do they need firewood? Do they need firewood, delivered to their site? Oh, you're here to fish for the weekend. We have bait freshly stocked. Do you want a 7-pound bag of ice waiting for you, upon arrival? Like, all of these things do factor into the reviews. So we're keeping all of that in mind on a daily basis.
You mentioned earlier kind of how you kind of got this deal, you were just out there, right, connecting with people. And can you go into the deal a little bit, kind of the bones, the nitty gritty of how you got this deal across the table? And can you talk a little bit about the financials and what do you need to start financially to get into a park such as yours?
Yeah. So my partner, Melissa, is the one that found this park. Right now, I'm not blanking. She found it on Campground Marketplace.
Okay.
And so she got connected with the broker, and through multiple conversations with the broker, they vetted us and learned that we were serious buyers. And then from there, the brokers were able to set up the tour with the current owner, the previous owners. So we met them in person on our road trip. And so it was on that trip, meeting them in person, where we really started chatting through, some of the financials. And so while we were in person and we were really building the rapport is when I threw out, would you have any open to listen on seller financing? And they said, we have talked about it, but I don't think so. Okay, that's fine. So we take it back and, we came back and we said, this is really a park that we want. It's pretty perfect. It checks all of our boxes. So in the meantime, we're like doing due diligence, right? And making sure that the NOI is what they say it is. And that the numbers really would work for us while flowing through financing options. So that's really what made the negotiations a bit more lengthy, is we were starting from a place of zero seller financing.
Whoa.
And we ended up getting more than 2/3 of it seller financed. And that entirely came from the rapport. So we were able to meet them at their asking price. And we said, we can meet you at the asking price of $3.5 million if you can meet us here with seller financing. And so we ended up doing $1 million down and 2.5 seller financed over 5 years. And so then that became a negotiation of like, what does the interest rate look like? And it turned out for them, it wasn't so much focused on a single interest rate, but what are actually the monthly payments look like. And so those stack as time goes on, they get bigger. And then, okay, now we have to come up with $1 million down, and we're going to have to fundraise for this. But we also knew we needed some CapEx money as well, because going in, we had projects. We're so focused on dogs, we need to add a dog park. We also need to upgrade the general store and really expand its offering. We want to get into grocery. We want to get into souvenirs, have dog items, all of this. So we needed money for that. We're also adding propane. So, money for that. So we'd outlined all of our projects and what those would look like. And so we came up with a total raise of $1.5 million that was needed to get the deal closed. And initially we were going to do the raise on Fractional, which for anybody who doesn't know, Fractional is a platform to go out and capital raise for many different needs. Without having to worry about all of the legalities and structure behind that fundraise, because the company Fractional takes care of all that for you. So we thought that was the route we were going to go. And then, both being an owners club, we ended up pitching the deal on Dealmaker to Pace Morby and a few other people. And as we were on stage in November, Pace loved the deal so much that he decided to fund the whole thing.
That's an incredible opportunity to kind of connect with someone such as Pace, to get into a deal with him. Again, that's a 1 in a million opportunity. You got to get in there, right? And now you have insight. Now you get, Pace, oh my God, what do I do? How can you help? Right? So you have that instant connection in a deal. That's incredible. Like you said, fractionals, a kind of sort of a crowd raising that you can put in an investment, and you just get a passive return from it. And many people can join, like small investors, right? So it's a great opportunity to be able to raise capital and bring attention to your project, right? Whitney, what makes a good deal versus a bad deal so far in your experiences?
I think that varies for every person, right? And what their goals are. For me, what makes a good deal is there's not only opportunity for growth in a significant way, but that it's cash flowing from day one. Like, that is critically important to us, that we come in, it is a healthy business, and, we're able to bring in the staff that we need and pay them and pay all of our, utility bills right off the bat. So some people have some firm markers in place, like they won't even look at a deal if it's, below X% cap rate or whatever. I'm not quite so firm in that, only because I love underwriting. I love numbers. That goes back to my retail history. And so, I think that I look for opportunities in some different ways than others may look at it. This deal that we bought, I think, was closer to like a 7% cap rate when we bought it. And we've already dramatically increased that with some low-hanging fruit. So some people may have not even like really looked at the deal to begin with because of that, but you got to peel back the layers. There are always layers to look at.
For sure. Now that you have your 90 days in, right? What does a normal work week look now in comparisons that let's say April to kind of February, when you kind of really dug in and you took ownership of the park?
Yeah. So now, somebody just asked me this the other day, like, are things getting easier? And I would say, like, the time commitment that both, Melissa and I are putting in at this point, that has not lightened up. And I don't see it lightening up in the next few months, because, May 1st was the start of high season. Even mid-April, we really started, feeling that we don't have any vacancy. Like, we are turning people down on a daily basis. We have a wait list. And so we're getting into the height of like planning all of the events for the holidays. Memorial weekend is around the corner. Melissa is going to be at the park for that. And, she's planning like 3 events every single day. So I don't think we're really going to be able to pull back for a little bit. We're still learning. The park manager is obviously learning. We found she and her husband in sub 2, by the way, which is amazing. Very small world. So I think we're starting to pull back on like the absolute fire drills and crisis. Like, that's not happening 10 times a day, which is nice. But yeah, we're going to be deep in this business for a few more months before I think we're able to like step back for a day or two at a time.
Yeah, because I think you got great timing, because the busy season, right? It's kind of the Memorial Day weekend, right? So you've had some time kind of to have a build up, right? To get to that point, and you get to learn a lot, right? And implement new systems. So I think timing has been good for you, right?
For sure.
In that aspect, right?
Absolutely. Although, yes, I couldn't agree more. Closing in January with a severe, like, historic freeze was not exactly fun. I will say that was hard. It also led to, going under contract in November and closing in January means the pool is closed, right?
Yeah.
And so you can't do an inspection. So that has been interesting because we are in the process of getting the pool open now, and there have been a ton of surprises. And what do you know? We've kind of just learned we're going to have to move up the timeline on putting in a new pool, which could cost us $300,000. That may not be able to be 5 years out. That may now need to be something that's next year. And so that's a surprise, right? So yeah, real fun surprise. How do we start working around that? So never a dull moment, but yeah, in hindsight, I think I may have figured out a way to try and do some sort of inspection on the pool.
That's a pro tip, guys. So pay attention. And leading into that, now that you're an RV park owner operator, what's your advice for people getting into the space? Some do's and don'ts, kind of, so you can steer them in a certain direction.
Yeah, I would say get out there and just start visiting parks. Like, tour them. Every single RV park has a different flavor and a different vibe. And so I would recommend that to a newbie as, like, figure out exactly what you want to go for. Are you the type of person that wants a resort and you want to get into hospitality and be having all these events and, basically running like a hotel operation at the same time? Or are you somebody that wants more long-term tenants? One of the parks we toured was like heavily focused on a motorcycle crowd, right? That has its own vibe. So really learn exactly what you're going after, because an RV park is not an RV park is not an RV park. Every single one is different.
Yeah. A moment probably you won't forget. What's been your most stressful moment, right? That you got in there like, oh my God, what do I do?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it was a Sunday morning, and it was also the first of the month. It was the very beginning. Yeah, it was a Sunday morning where a lot of people were coming in to pay their bill. So I think it must have been like the beginning of February, or maybe it was beginning of March. I don't know. Lots go on Sundays anyways.
Okay.
And before the office even opened, someone who had been in a cabin for 6 years came running in to say that sewage was coming up through their shower drain.
Oh.
Yeah. And on top of that was also when pipes were freezing. 10 things going on at once, and like the woman coming in saying that they had sewage what sent me over the edge. And so, you just work through it, and you learn that you deal with sewage every single day at an RV park. Every day.
It's a real thing. What type of person you think would fail in this endeavor?
Someone who does not have grit, and someone who's not willing to roll up their sleeves and do the really hard work when it's not glamorous, it's not fun. If you can't deal with people talking poorly about you or starting rumors, this is not the business for you. I really don't care what people say about me, but when you're spreading rumors, that are lies and then posting about it online, and that has direct business impact, as we were talking about the reviews, that stuff does bother me and upset me. And then to see these people come into the office and then like try and be nice to your face, and stuff is hard, right? It is really, really hard. So there have been quite a number of things said about Melissa and I. I really don't sweat it at all, but you really have to have thick skin to be in this business.
Yeah. So that leads into my other question. Who is the avatar? Who is the person that would succeed in this type of business?
somebody who wants to be an operator, a full-on operator who can handle 20 things going on at once. Also does well in an environment managing people, all sorts of different communications. Yeah, strong operators and people who have, some sort of business sense or business experience would do well.
You've been in it 90 days, give or take a day. Is there anything that you would do differently?
That's a really good question. I don't know that I've thought about that. Yes. We had a welcome party, kickoff pizza party in the very beginning. And at that point we were on our second manager, the first weekend. And she really came out guns blazing, with all these new rules and just really scared people. And that just kind of set the tone for, a lot of people's opinions of us. And so if I were to do it differently, I think that we would have held that meet and greet pizza party ourselves and maybe just introduce the manager instead of having the manager run it herself.
I hear that. If someone wanted to start tomorrow or today, what's step one?
Start searching the broker websites, Campground Marketplace or Cruxy. There are so many of them. Just start looking at, the OMs, the operating memorandum or offering memorandum, and start to familiarize yourself with, what do park financials look like? What kind of deals are out there? That would be step one. And step two would be, get in the car or on a flight and start touring parks in areas that you want.
Guys, you got the intel. Whitney, can you tell us where your park is? What's the name of your park and how we can connect with you?
Yes. The park is in Crossville, Tennessee. It is Davy Crockett Campground. And the best way to connect with me is probably on Instagram. I see my handle here in the name, the Whitney Parkhill, and I will respond to DMs. I'm happy to hop on a call and chat, whatever that looks like, but that's the best way to get in touch.
Guys and gals, there goes another episode of the Investor Daddy podcast where we make the information the star. Whitney, thank you for sharing your journey and imparting your wisdom as an operator owner now. Congratulations to you and Melissa. Again, much success to you, and I see you down the road.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Oh, man, that was so awesome. Thank you.
That was so good. Thank you. Great questions.
I love it. Yeah, again, I created like a GPT, YouTube GPT, kind of to lead me to ask the right questions and the things to ask people, stuff like that. So I kind of have like an assistant kind of, guide me through. So I kind of built it out. So I customize it to what I do. And it's my assistant. Like, hey, what should I do? I put it in this morning. I didn't even stress it because I know I was running. I said, tell me the blah, blah, blah. Again, I already had some context of what you do. So I already knew kind of the direction I want to lead into when I fed it the information. And voila. And then we're here. My light shut off at the middle of I have like a little studio here. So one of my lights literally shut off. So I had to kind of use my phone light, right? You got to keep it moving, right? You got to keep
moving. That's right.
I threw on the flashlight and I say, this is the best it's going to get.
Yep.
Yeah,
well, I right? do this.
Yeah, oh, for sure. Yeah, because I usually test all my lights and make sure they're all functional. And I failed myself. Like all my little lights, all my cute lights are working, but except for this sucker here. But I'm gonna charge that sucker up for the next one. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. Like I said, I personally have learned through you, right? Because I just took that notion. Like I said, I need to really understand this world, right? Not only kind of Pace present. No, I got to really immerse myself in what people are doing. And you and Ashley Perez, I don't know if you know Ashley, are are the people kind of I lean on, that I say, this is what's going on in reality. And guys, this is what we have to do, right? So I appreciate you for just helping me in my journey, right? Because the park is kind of the end of the journey where you close and you have that, and that's kind of voila. But during that, you're still in it, right? And for me, you've been instrumental without you even knowing it.
I'm happy at any point, if you ever need to jump on a call, run something by, whatever, like, please don't hesitate to reach out. I would love to help in any way, shape, or form. I feel very strongly about sharing the reality of what this is, because I think so much of social media is like rainbows and sunshine. And
yes.